I didn't realize my father-in-law hated me until the night he called me a leech while eating dinner I had paid for, in the house I paid the mortgage on. I thought it was just Richard's bark, the old-school ribbing he used on everyone. It wasn't. It was a story he'd been fed for years, and I was the villain in it. I'll tell you how the story got written and how it ended. I met Anna at a friend's trivia night in Denver. She was the kind of person who could talk about anything. Even when she didn't know the answer, she had a way of laughing that made the whole table feel like we'd gotten it right anyway. I was 29, a financial analyst at a mid-market firm downtown. My hours were long, the money was good, and I took pride in being useful. Anna worked part-time at a boutique on Larimer. Mostly for the discount, she said with a grin. I like pretty things. On our second date, she said, "There's something you should know about my dad." We were splitting a slice of lemon pie at a diner that hadn't updated its decor since 1974. He's very traditional, like bring her home by 10 traditional? I asked. Like a man provides and a woman makes a home traditional, she said. He's protective. He'll warm up to you. He didn't, but I didn't know that yet. We got married in 2016, Littleton Courthouse, brunch after with both families. Richard shook my hand like he was crushing a can. Take care of my girl, he said. She's been taking care of her whole life. Don't make her want for anything. I won't, I said, and I meant it. The first year we rented. The second, we bought a 3-bedroom in Centennial with a postage stamp yard and a maple that turned the street into a postcard in October. I paid the down payment from my savings, signed the mortgage, set up all the utilities in auto pay because I'm that kind of person. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was the life I wanted. Stability. A place to come home to where the lights always worked and the fridge was full and the air smelled like coffee in the morning. Anna slid into a rhythm of yoga classes, long walks with a neighbor, rearranging throw pillows, sending me photos of beige vases captioned, "Do we need this?" I covered the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the car, the vacations, the dinners out, the little emergencies that aren't really emergencies. Dentist crown, a new phone when she dropped hers in the sink, plane tickets to Phoenix when her college friend got engaged, when she handed me birthday presents for her parents, an iPad for Richard, a spa day for Linda. She would kiss my cheek and whisper, "You spoil them." And I would smile because spoiling people felt good. Sunday dinners were a thing from the start. Richard and Linda would drive in from Castle Rock, Richard announcing his arrival by banging the screen door too hard, Linda putting a pie on the counter with an apologetic smile. I cooked because I like cooking. I'd do a roast or salmon with lemon, make potatoes the way my mom did in Iowa, something green so I could pretend I was choosing health. They'd sit, drink my wine, eat my food, and Richard would make jokes like, "You work with numbers?" In my day, real men worked with their hands. Or, "You're lucky Anna keeps you on track. Can't imagine you planning a grocery list." He'd laugh, everyone would laugh, and I'd tuck the sting away with the other tiny hurts of the day. Your boss's unnecessary reminder, a driver who cut you off and flipped you off for existing. One Thanksgiving. Over a turkey I'd spent 6 hours basting. He raised his glass and said, "To my daughter, who takes care of this man and keeps him fed." God knows he'd starve otherwise. I felt something hot climb my neck. After, when we were loading the dishwasher, I asked Anna, "Why does he keep saying that?" She didn't meet my eyes. "He doesn't mean anything by it." "Does he think you're the one paying for everything?" I asked it lightly, like I was curious, like the answer wasn't already making its way through my chest with steel-toed boots. She flinched. That was the first crack. I let it go because you can't stop a dinner in the middle to hold court about a feeling. You chalk it up to generational differences and pour more wine. But it got worse. Richard's jokes got barbed. At a barbecue at their place, he clapped me on the back so hard I spilled beer on my shoe and said, "You got it good, son." Anna told us she covers the big stuff. Not like your generation of men, soft hands, soft spine. I stared at him. "She said that?" He grinned. "No shame in it. Some men just don't have the drive. Good thing our girl does." The world did a slow tilt. Later in the car, I said, "What did you tell him?" Anna's voice was small. "I told him I pay the mortgage. Why?" My voice sounded wrong, like I was speaking through a long metal tunnel. She locked her eyes on the road ahead. He respects independence. He doesn't respect women who don't contribute. Didn't want him to think I was some freeloader. So you told him I was the freeloader, I said, and that word tasted like blood. I didn't say that, she shot back, defensive. I just reframed things. He doesn't need to know our finances. But you told him you pay for this house, I said. You told him you pay for dinners. For their gifts. I told him I contribute, she said. Like the word could stretch to cover a lie. Anna, I said. And my voice surprised me, because it came out gentle even though I felt like someone had turned me inside out. I've paid every dollar. Every single one. And he sits at my table in my house and calls me a leech. Because you needed him to be proud of you. She started to cry. I'm sorry. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered. It mattered more than I wanted it to. For a few months I tried to fix it. I sent the mortgage receipt to the shared family thread on accident on purpose 1 month. Richard posted a thumbs up emoji and nothing else. I tried to invite him into a project. Come by, help me build the deck stairs. Thinking if he saw me sweat, something would recalibrate. He canceled the morning of. Gotta help a real friend with a water heater, he texted. Then came the night in my kitchen. We'd just finished enchiladas. Linda was in the bathroom. Anna was fussing with the dessert plates and Richard cornered me by the sink. I don't know how you live with yourself, he said. Quiet, almost conversational. Letting my daughter work herself to the bone while you freeload. You're not a man. You're a burden. I put the dish down. Richard, I said calmly, I have paid every bill in this house for 7 years. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, cars, dinners, vacations, your iPad, your Yellowstone trip, your whatever. I made a vague motion because my hands were shaking. All of it, he snorted. Don't lie to me. Anna tells us everything she pays. You sit on her neck. He used the phrase like he was savoring it. That was the moment something in me clicked, like a gear finally finding a tooth. I didn't yell. I didn't shove. I just looked at him for a long time. Then I washed my hands and said, We'll talk at the table. When we sat down with Linda's key lime pie, I pulled a folder from the sideboard. It was so ordinary. Manila slightly bent at the corner, a red pen clipped to the front. Inside, statements, mortgage, utilities, credit card. Bank transfers. My W-2s, it was petty. It was precise. It was necessary. Richard, I said, and my voice came out steady. For 7 years, I've paid for this family. Every line highlighted is a bill paid from my account. Every gift you've opened that my wife said was from her, my card. Every trip, every dinner, I stopped, took a breath. Your daughter told you a story because you value independence over truth. You were proud of her for a lie, and you despise me for the reality that kept that lie afloat. Anna stared at her plate. Linda's hand hovered over the pie knife and didn't move. He stared at the papers like they were written in a language he couldn't read, then shoved his chair back so hard it squealed. So you're calling my daughter a liar, he said, color climbing his neck. I'm saying she lied, I said. And you believed her because you wanted to. He stormed out. Linda followed, whispering, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I felt an old, tired kind of lonely. That night, Anna cried, big shaking sobs, and I stood there not knowing where to put my hands. I just wanted him to be proud of me, she said. He thinks women who don't pay their way are weak. I didn't want to be weak. You could have told him you managed the home, I said. You could have told him we made choices together. You didn't have to make me small to make yourself look big. I didn't mean to hurt you. You let him insult me in my house for years, and you said nothing. That's not an accident, I said quietly. That's a choice. We tried counseling. 2 sessions. The therapist asked good questions, the kind that echo after you leave the room. Anna, what did it cost you to keep your father's approval? What did it cost him? What happens to intimacy when contempt is invited to dinner every Sunday? Anna's answers were honest. I feel scared when my dad disapproves. But the change didn't come. At home, she said, let's just not talk about it. And the silence sat between us like a third person who didn't pay rent. I filed for divorce in March. If you've never done it, divorce is 1,000 small humiliations dressed as errands. You sit with a mediator named Janet, who has a plant on her desk and a voice like a librarian, and you divide your life into lines: house equity, car title, furniture, the KitchenAid mixer you bought her for Christmas that she used twice. You list out numbers, and there is something obscene about seeing love rendered as bullet points and dollar amounts, like a life autopsy with footnotes. We didn't have kids. That should have made it easier. It didn't, not really. Each item had a history, and that history was a tripwire. The oak dining table? We found it at a consignment shop on South Broadway. She ran her palm over the surface and said, "You can feel the life in it." The couch? We argued about color for a week and landed on gray, because the salesman promised it was practical. The bookshelves. I built them myself one weekend when she was at a girls' retreat in Breckenridge, sent her photos of the progress, felt proud and useful. Now they were columns on Janet's worksheet, and we were saying things like, "You take the table," and "Fine. Keep the couch," and "I'll buy new shelves." The money part was simple because the truth is simple under a microscope. My paychecks had covered everything. There wasn't any community debt beyond a credit card we used for points. No alimony either. Colorado's spousal maintenance is a formula and a conversation. The conversation ended when Anna's attorney realized her contributions were largely decorative. "We're not seeking maintenance," her attorney said, clipped eyes not meeting mine. On the day the judge signed the decree, Anna and I stood 6 feet apart in a courtroom that smelled like old paper. It took 9 minutes. The judge asked perfunctory questions. We both said, "Yes, Your Honor," in the flat voice of people who memorized their lines so they wouldn't cry. When it was done, we walked out into bright spring sun that felt obscene. On the step she said, "Do you hate me?" I stared at a crack running through the concrete because it felt easier than looking at her. "No," I said. "I don't think I do. I think you wanted your father to see you a certain way, and you let that matter more than anything else. Can we be friends?" she asked, and there was a 16-year-old in her voice I hadn't heard in a long time. "Maybe someday," I said. "When the story you tell doesn't make me small." 2 days after the decree, Richard called. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail that started with bluster, "I've got some words for you," and ended after a long pause with something like contrition. "I misjudged you," he said, the words sounding like he'd sanded them down before using them. "Come by the house. Let's talk," Linda texted too. "Coffee?" "Please," I agreed to meet at a diner on University. It was neutral ground. They were already in a booth when I arrived, sitting side by side, as if solidarity could erase history. Linda patted the seat across from them. Richard stared at the sugar packets like they were about to testify. "I want to apologize," Linda said, speaking first because she always did the emotional labor of 2 people. "We should have asked. We should have seen. We shouldn't have let those jokes stand. I'm sorry." Richard cleared his throat. "I was wrong," he said. He looked 10 years older. "I let my pride do the talking." I stirred my coffee. "Pride did the lying too," I said calmly. "Pride liked the story where your daughter was exceptional, and I was less than." He flinched. "She's our girl." "I know," I said. "And I never tried to make you love her less. I just wanted you to see me." "We do," Linda said quickly. "We do now." I looked at them for a long moment, and what I felt wasn't triumph. It was a tired kind of relief that came with a side of grief. If you truly believed your daughter, who hasn't worked full-time in a decade, was bankrolling your gifts, your trips, your dinners, if you believed she paid this mortgage while I sat on her neck, then let her keep doing it, I said. And my voice didn't shake. "Because I'm done. I won't be your family's ATM or your family's punching bag." Linda's eyes filled. Richard's mouth compressed to a thin line. He nodded once, a tiny, almost imperceptible bow of the head. "Fair," he said. We sat in silence for a minute. 3 people who had shared Sundays and holidays, now strangers in the quiet between the clink of cups and the scrape of forks. When the waitress brought the check, I put a 20 on the table and slid out of the booth. Linda reached for my sleeve. "We're truly sorry," she whispered. "You didn't deserve it." "No one does," I said. "Not even the next guy." I moved into a 1-bedroom near Wash Park. The first night, the quiet rang in my ears. I ate dinner standing up because the table hadn't arrived yet, and I didn't want to sit on the floor, like I was 14 in my first apartment. I slept on a mattress on the carpet, and woke to sunlight striping the wall, and for a moment I didn't know where I was. Then I remembered, and the ache that followed was clean, not infected. I made the space mine in a way I hadn't done since college. I bought a second-hand dining table with a water ring shaped like a ghost of a glass. I built shelves again, slowly, precisely, like the physical act of measuring and drilling could set other things straight. I cooked for one and then for friends. I learned that if you light a candle at dusk, the room feels less empty. I ran around the park at sunrise and discovered that if you push through the first 5 minutes of wanting to quit, your body remembers you can do hard things. People asked, as they do. My co-workers wanted the headline. My friends wanted the gossip, the villain, the hook. I told the truth in simple sentences. We had different values, I'd say. Her father thought I was a leech because she told him I was. It became true to them. Some people got it. Some people said, but she's so sweet. Like sweetness could cancel out harm. I stopped explaining it to those people. A year passed. I got a promotion I'd wanted. Not the kind you post about with confetti, but solid. The kind that comes with a raise and a seat at the table where decisions get made. I started mentoring a junior analyst who reminded me of myself at 25. Except she asked for what she wanted in a way I hadn't learned how to. I told her to keep doing that. I called my mom more. I visited my brother in Fort Collins and helped him replace a fence post. Our hands dirty. The good, tired afterward that makes beer taste better. Then, last fall, I ran into Linda in the produce section at King Soopers. She had a list in her hand and a look on her face like she couldn't remember what apples were for. We did the awkward dance. How are you? Good, you? We both meant. Do we acknowledge the crater or pretend the landscape was always like this? She moved back home, Linda said abruptly, not meeting my eyes. The boutique closed. She's figuring things out. I hope she finds work she likes, I said, and I meant it. We didn't know, Linda said, voice wobbling. We should have known. You loved your daughter, I said softly. You wanted a story you could be proud of. That's human. It just wasn't kind. She nodded, tears standing. Richard's different, she said. Quieter. He sold his truck. He says the house is too big. We stood there, two people who had sat across from each other 100 times, and now couldn't find what to do with our hands. I picked up my basket. Take care of yourself, I said. And him? You too, she said. You always were a good man. I walked out into thin autumn light and sat in my car for a moment with my hands on the wheel, breathing. The compliment slid off me like rain. I didn't need it anymore. I started dating again around Christmas. Slowly, deliberately. Coffee, not dinner. Walks, not movies. A person named Nora with a laugh that starts low and then bursts like a firework. When I told her the short version, my ex lied to her parents about money for years. They treated me like a freeloader. I left. She didn't say, wow, she seems so sweet, or are you sure? She said, that must have been lonely. And then, what did you learn? I told her, I learned that paying for everything doesn't mean you're respected. I learned that if someone needs to be admired more than they need to be honest, you'll always be the price. I learned that jokes are just insults with better PR. I learned that a man who works with numbers can also work with his hands, and that neither makes him more of a man than showing up does. I learned that boundaries aren't punishment. They're instructions for how to love you. Sometimes on Sundays I make a roast anyway, just for me, because I like the ritual. I pour a glass of wine, put on a record, and set the table for one in a way that would make my mother shake her head. Cloth napkin, the good plates, a candle. Even if it's just me. I eat slowly. I taste the rosemary. I let the quiet be a friend. Every now and then, a number I don't recognize calls late and hangs up. Every now and then, an envelope with no return address shows up, and inside is a handwritten apology that uses the passive voice like a shield. Mistakes were made. Feelings were hurt. Things were misunderstood. I don't respond. I don't need them to name me anything anymore. I know what I am. If you're listening to this because you've been cast as the villain in someone else's family myth, here's what I'll tell you. Keep your receipts. Sure, but more importantly, keep your self-respect. You can't outspend a lie. You can only step out of it. And when you do, the air is thinner for a while, and your legs shake and you think you might sit down and crawl. But then you take another step and another, And one day you realize you haven't explained yourself to anyone in months. And your dinner tastes like rosemary and a little freedom. And the room is full of the kind of quiet that feels like possibility. A few weeks ago, I got an email from Janet, the mediator. She was following up on a file, looking for a final receipt I'd already sent. At the bottom, she added a line she probably adds to everyone. Wishing you the best as you move forward. I stared at it and thought about how moving forward sounds like something you do on a treadmill. But it's really more like building shelves. You measure, you drill, you put your shoulder into it, and at the end there's a place to put your life that didn't exist before. Nora came over last night. We ate at the new table, the one with the water ring, and I made the potatoes like my mom's. These are dangerous, she said. Mouth full, and I felt a twinge of that old pride. The good kind. The kind that points inward, not down. Later, when she left, I washed the dishes and looked at my hands in the suds. They are soft in places and rougher in others. They look like a man's hands and a person's hands, capable of holding a drill and a pen, and a truth that didn't need to be shouted to be real. I don't know if Richard will ever really get it. I don't know if Anna will pick up extra shifts or go back to school, or double down on a story that worked until it didn't. That's not my work anymore. My work is showing up for my own life, and for the people who meet me in the middle with their eyes open. If Richard ever asks me for advice, and he won't, I'd tell him this next time you're eating food in a man's home. Don't call him a leech. Ask him how he made the roast. Ask him to show you the trick with the potatoes. Ask him what he's proud of that no one sees. It won't make you less of a man to listen. Might make you more of a person. And if you truly believed your daughter could bankroll your life without ever looking at a pay stub, maybe that was the first lie. The truth is smaller, quieter, but it holds. It's just this. Respect is honesty. If you want one, start with the other.